Alright YouTube, so I'm excited to hop into this video. We are back to talk about the Final Fantasy VII and X connection theory. There has been another Easter egg found. We have done like 3 or 4 videos on this, and I absolutely love this connection. I know that there are people out there that aren't fans of this, and that's perfectly fine, but Final Fantasy X is one of my favorite in the series, possibly like my second favorite. Obviously 7 is my favorite. I'd say for sure like top 3. 9 and 12 would also be in that discussion. I feel like those are somewhat underrated. You don't hear people talk about those as often, but those are also 2 of my favorite Final Fantasy games. But having Final Fantasy VII and X, 2 of my favorite games within the series, being subtly connected through like these winks and nudges and subtle little Easter eggs and things is something that I absolutely love. So really quickly, I'm going to play you a clip from Final Fantasy VII Remake and see if you can catch the Easter egg. Did you happen to catch it? Probably not, because it's something that only happens during this cutscene, I believe. I don't think there's ever a time where we go into the Turk's office, specifically, when we're in the Shinra building. We go through a lot of rooms, so I could be wrong on that. But you see it during this cutscene, which is after the Sector 7 platefall, when the Turks are talking within the office, Song, Reno, and Rude. And there's a magazine on the table that has Shinra from 10-2 on it. Shout out to Wolf Within Her on the Remake subreddit for finding this. They're using Blender, which I think is like some sort of like video game tool or something, to look around the Turk's office within Remake and found this magazine. Which is something you pretty much have to do, because during this cutscene, there's no angle where we get a good look at the magazine. Like, we're always kind of far away from it. So it's kind of interesting that this is in the game, but you're kind of not really ever supposed to see it. Something else I found interesting about the image they use on the front of the magazine is it looks like it's pulled almost directly from 10-2. Like, I feel like if you went frame by frame within the cutscenes of 10-2 where Shinra's talking at the computer, you could almost find that image they used. As opposed to the Easter egg we looked at previously within the Shinra Museum in the Shinra building, where it's like a similar mask, like an Al Bhed mask, but it looks nothing like the Shinra character from 10-2. Completely new character. And for those that might not know how the connection theory works, we're not going to go super in-depth on it here because we talked about it a few times. Most people are kind of aware of how it works, but I highly recommend you check out this video right here. We go over like all the different connections that 10 and 7 have. But pretty much like there's similar planets, like Spira, Final Fantasy X, and Gaia, Final Fantasy VII. The planets kind of work the same. Like the live stream on 7 is similar to like the far plane when it comes to 10. Maka from Final Fantasy VII is similar to Pyreflies from Final Fantasy X, but the main connection, of course, with the Shinra character, like the kind of kid or whatever he is, maybe young adult, teenager, whatever it is like a descendant of President Shinra from 7, like 1,000 years in the past. So about 1,000 years after 10-2, the little kid Shinra's like descendants travel to Gaia and kind of start the Shinra Electric Power Company. Again, that's kind of quick TLDR. I want to watch that video if you want to learn more. And what's kind of cool is I made that video before Remake ever came out. Like, I just came across the theory and wanted to cover it and talk about it on the channel. And then Remake came out and we got that Easter egg within the Shinra Museum. And then now we have this too. We have another Easter egg, another allusion to like 10 and 7 being connected. Now, when we talk about the games being connected, we're not saying that there's going to be any sort of crossover at any point. We're not going to see Cloud over there in Spear or Titus/Titus over here in Gaia FF7 Remake at any point, though that would be kind of cool. But if we want to talk about some crossover, I did do that Orin video, which is kind of controversial. People thought I was reaching, but I still love that video. I think it's kind of interesting. But the main thing that comes out of this I appreciate, other than just the Easter egg itself, is that it makes you wonder how many other small details are within the game that we've yet to come across or see. Like, this is something you're not even really ever supposed to access or be able to really notice. So it makes you want to go into like every single environment within Remake and kind of take the camera and move around the environment and kind of look for stuff that we usually don't have a good angle to look at. And who knows what other things are out there, man. Now, that is completely out of my wheelhouse. I'd love to do it, but I have no idea how you even do that with like a PlayStation 4 game. Goddamn, that's for other people smarter than I am. Again, shout out to Wolf Within Her on the subreddit for finding this, man. It's crazy. It makes you wonder what else is out there. And going forward, I know, again, some people aren't fans of this connection theory, but for me, as somebody that does like this, 2 of my favorite Final Fantasy games, I'd really hope that, like, there's other things like this. Again, going into, like, Part 2 and beyond. Like, I don't want, to see characters necessarily from Final Fantasy X, but, like, more just, like, subtle mentions of, like, the history of Shinra and kind of where they originated from, potentially maybe a reference to Spear. I don't know if you want to go that direct with it, but just some other subtle connections, man. Like, maybe we're reading some lore somewhere, some text document or something within the game, reading a book or something that's on a table, and you see the word Spira. They don't have to explain that this is a completely different planet that people traveled from, but just the word Spira, like, you'd know what that is in reference to. Either way, my dudes, that is pretty much the video. So definitely want to know your thoughts on this in the comment section below. And I hope going forward people can find more stuff like this. Like, not just Final Fantasy X Easter eggs, though. I'm interested in seeing more of those if they exist. Just more Easter eggs in general that are just around the world of Remake that we just haven't come across yet. Either way, that's the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We'll say more Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy X connection theory stuff. I lost my train of thought. Turn on notifications. Follow me on Twitter at dashingdavidYT. I'm a Discord. The links to my social networks are in the description. And in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. get so insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame, we blow that like Coltrane, we in here